it's hard when I forget that he's not here. You know, I would ask, anybody heard from Chris today? You know, my other kids or whatever, because, you know, we call each other or whatever. And if I didn't hear from him, someone else would, you know.
That is June Rodgers, and she says that her son Christian was a victim of New Jersey's bail reform laws. He was killed on April 9th by this man, Jules Black. Christian Rodgers fled to the backyard where police found him. You can still see in this garage door, this is one of the bullets that was fired from the gun of Jules Black. Now, Jules Black, 3 days earlier, had been arrested on an aggravated assault charge, but released, and June says he was released because of the new risk screening system in New Jersey's bail reform.
They did the risk assessment thing with this new bail reform, and I guess the computer said it was okay to let this guy go, so they let him go without bail, bond, or anything. And 3 days later, he killed my son.
Now, June's pain is undeniable, and her life is totally different, but she's got a new mission. She's partnered up with Dog the Bounty Hunter and his wife, Beth Chapman, who were in South Jersey a week ago and later went on to the State House to lobby legislators. Now, we wanted to have a debate on the subject today. We have Robert Clark, bounty hunter, bail bondsman. We wanted to hear from the Drug Policy Alliance, but when they heard we were telling June's story, they backed out. What they would say if they were here, however, they did point out that people were killed before by criminals who were out on monetary bail. That's obviously an undeniable reality. They fully support the bail reform and want people to hold back and wait, reserve judgment, have a little bit more time go by before they start making their own judgments.
So, Rob, thank you for joining us. You can't deny the point that people who have paid monetary bail have gotten out and committed crimes, but how many people need to die before you would look at the fact that clearly the system has let criminals, hardened criminals in some cases, with years of record to show out on the streets?
Well, yeah, and it happened on money bail, absolutely, but the difference is money bail, as you know, and a lot of people don't understand this, as a bail bond company, if I was going to bail you out of jail, I'm going to get your family involved. Your family's going to co-sign for you. So they're going to aid in the monitoring of you. You know, they're going to, because they got money on the line, so they're going to make sure you kind of stay on a straight and narrow. You know, they talk about electronic monitoring. Well, in Mercer County alone, they ran out of electronic monitoring units by the end of January. So,
wow.
Right, so, you know, Christie goes on the air and he talks about how, you know, initially he said everyone's being monitored. No, they're not. And some of the monitoring is call in once a week. Some of it's check in once a week.
Self-monitoring.
Exactly. And
I promise not to do anything wrong.
Right, and that's a problem. You know, if a guy misses court, like, you know, one of our clients missed court, and we can't, you know, now we go out and get him. Now, you know, keep this in mind. We're going to track him, and we're going to bring him back at zero cost to taxpayers. Most courts want to see my monitoring records, whether I'm having this guy check in, whether I have him on GPS, because we do that too. We do have, you know, individuals on GPS. If we can't show that we monitored them, we get fined, we get penalized. I guarantee that no one's going after pretrial services. No one's saying, hey, when you go home at 4:30 and you stop monitoring, when this guy, you know, violates, we're not going to come after you for no money.
Let me ask you, the problem that at least the defenders of this said they were trying to solve was you had people on petty crimes being held because they couldn't come up with $150. That problem, the solution to that problem seems to have made the problem worse. But what do you say to that part of the argument in terms of the need to reform bail? Because it does stand to reason if a guy can't come up with $100 and, you know, it was a driving issue, it was something, seems a little bit ridiculous to house him in a jail.
Well, what I say to that issue is simple. First of all, bail reform does not address municipal court cases. That being said, the numbers they came up with their study was 12% of people in jail, in county jails, were in under $2,500 bail or less. There's not county bails being set at $2,500. What's being set at $2,500 are municipal court fines, municipal court bails. So that 12% remains. You still have, as an example, you go out and
so
you
then
get
you would solve it a little bit.
Not even a little bit. You go out and you get caught with a second-degree amount of drugs.
Okay.
Right? So you're distributing cocaine. They type you in, this little magic number comes out and says he's free to go. However, if you have a $550 fine that you owe Ewing Township, you're not free to go. Because bail reform doesn't address that.
And what shocks me about this is that when I asked Governor Christie about the need for bail reform, his answer was, oh, I was U.S. attorney. Nothing to see here. we're perfect. I mean, what do you think of that, with the governor taking that
It's a
stance?
great question. What about the governor? He's been very arrogant about this and
Of course he
dismissive.
has, right. And part of the problem is he modeled it after the federal system. The federal system has so few cases going through it that they have the time to keep people, and do their entire investigation prior to charging them. At a county level, you can't do that. You can't expect the federal system to work at the county level. There's too much volume, it's just never gonna happen. So that's one of the issues, but I just wanna jump back real quick, because you talked about the indigent people not being able, to get out of jail. And most bail bondsmen, all bail bondsmen, I would venture to say, don't want indigent people to sit in jail, just like they don't want truly violent criminals to get out. But in New Jersey, there's a bunch of counties that have a program called SLAP. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it has different meanings. One means Superintendent Labor Assistance Program. One means Sheriff Labor Assistance Program. And what that means is if you're in a county jail and you owe fines or you owe some jail time because you failed to pay and they decide they're going to sentence you to 28 days, they have a program where you can go out under the direction of one correction officer and you could work on the county roads, and I'm talking the inmates. So the inmates go out and they work on the county roads, they work in the county ball fields, they work on county property, cleaning it up, doing simple maintenance tasks, and they work off their time. They work off their days, they work off their fines. We don't use that enough here.
So who benefited from this?
I mean,
there were a couple of judges that came out. The governor is aggressively for it. I mean, you would think that the way they've painted the picture, that people who are opposed to this, some have even alleged racism, that this is about keeping minorities behind bars, and that's why. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that just based on demographics, unfortunately, a high portion of crime happens in the inner cities. At least from my standpoint, it's not racism, because I'm going to charge the same amount of money, whether you're black, white, or green. I'm going to charge the same amount of money for you to get out of jail.
Sabine, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we can race bait all day, but there are certain dynamics that are just in play. When it comes to inner cities, there are many more African Americans living in those areas. We've looked at the national statistics when it comes to drug arrests. We've seen that a disproportionate amount of minorities and blacks are arrested for the same crime that white do, but for some reason there's more blacks in prison for that crime. So yeah, there are issues, but there are also dynamics. It's just the geography. It's just where people congregate.
And the flip side of bail reform too is that if you have committed or been alleged to commit a higher crime, you are no way, no how getting out of jail. You're essentially having your right to put up a bail removed, your constitutional right to bail removed, and you're sitting in jail for a year, 2 years, waiting for your trial.
Dog the Bounty Hunter and Beth made that point that that's an Eighth Amendment right that you're being denied. But doesn't the court have the right to deny bail in certain cases anyway?
In New Jersey, up until the constitutional amendment, they can only deny bail in crimes with capital punishment.
Right. All right. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate your expertise.